Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to the Day's Explainer, where we're going to unpack the invisible underlying chemical rulebook that governs, well, absolutely everything around us. We are talking about acids and bases. Now, you might just think of them as those weird, brightly colored liquids sitting in glass beakers in some sterile chemistry lab somewhere, right? But the truth is, they dictate the flavors of the food you eat, the way your body digests that food, and honestly, the survival of life on our planet. It's this fascinating, constant chemical tug-of-war happening right under our noses. And once you understand the rules of the game, you're going to see the world in a completely different way.
To show you what I mean, let's look at a super relatable scenario. Picture this. You've just enjoyed a massive, heavy holiday meal with your family. You totally overate, and now you've got this terrible stomachache and indigestion. We've all been there. You look in your pantry, and you see 3 options: lemon juice, vinegar, or baking soda. Which one do you actually choose to feel better? Understanding the basic chemistry we're covering today is literally the ultimate life hack for picking the correct remedy here. Small hint, it's all about finding a substance that can mathematically nullify the problem in your gut. So, here is our quick roadmap for this explainer. We'll start with spotting acids and bases, then move to reactions in the lab, uncovering the secret of ions, and decoding the pH scale. After that, we'll apply it all to pH in everyday life and finally wrap things up with the world of salts.
All right, Section 1, spotting acids and bases. The big question here is, how do we actually identify these chemicals out in the wild without doing something crazy dangerous like tasting them? You know, historically, taste actually was a clue. Acids generally have this sharp, sour taste. Think of biting into a lemon or some tamarind. Bases, on the other hand, are typically bitter and can almost feel slippery or soapy to the touch. But obviously, going around tasting unknown chemicals is just a terrible, terrible idea. So instead, we use what are called indicators. Litmus paper is a really famous natural indicator extracted from lichen. Acids will turn blue litmus paper red, and bases turn red litmus paper blue. But here's a really fun, everyday example you might have actually experienced. Turmeric. Have you ever spilled turmeric puree on a white shirt? If you take that shirt and scrub the stain with soap, which is basic in nature, boom, the yellow stain suddenly turns reddish-brown. It's not magic, it's literally just chemistry in action. The base in the soap is reacting with the natural indicator inside the turmeric. If you wash it out with plenty of water, it goes right back to yellow.
Moving right along to Section 2, reactions in the lab. It's one thing to spot an acid or a base, but it's a whole different ballgame to see how they dynamically interact with metals and, of course, with each other. Imagine dropping some zinc metal granules into a beaker of dilute sulfuric acid. Almost immediately, you'd see all these bubbles fiercely forming on the surface of the zinc. What's happening is that the zinc metal is literally tearing the acid apart. It displaces the acid's hydrogen atoms to form a brand new compound called a salt, and in the process, it releases the leftover hydrogen as a gas. If you were to capture that gas in soap bubbles and bring a burning candle nearby, pop! The hydrogen gas burns with a tiny explosion. It's a perfect visual proof of a fundamental rule. Acid plus metal creates salt and hydrogen gas. But what happens if an acid and a base face off against each other directly? Well, that brings us to the neutralisation reaction. This is basically the ultimate chemical showdown. When you mix a base and an acid, they fight it out and actually completely nullify each other's effects. All those dangerous corrosive properties just vanish, leaving behind only salt and water. Going back to our earlier pantry question about the stomach ache, your stomach hurts because of excess acid. By choosing the baking soda, which is a mild base, you are triggering a neutralization reaction inside your own stomach. It creates harmless salt and water, giving you that instant sweet relief.
I do need to pause for a very serious safety warning here, though. When we mix concentrated acids, like sulfuric or nitric acid, with water, it is a highly, highly exothermic process. That means it generates an absolutely enormous amount of heat. You must always add the acid slowly to a large volume of water while constantly stirring. If you do it backward and you add water into a concentrated acid, the sudden, intense heat can cause the mixture to rapidly boil and splash out. That can cause severe chemical burns or even shatter the glass container entirely just from the extreme local heating. So acid into water, always. Okay, with that safety check out of the way, let's jump into Section 3, the secret of ions. What is actually giving these acids and bases their incredible power to dissolve metals or perfectly neutralize each other? If you were to hook up an acidic water solution to a battery and a light bulb, that bulb is going to light up, proving that the acidic solution conducts electricity. But everyday solutions like glucose or alcohol don't do that at all. Why? Because acids in water produce these microscopic secret agents called ions.
Specifically, acids separate in water to produce hydrogen ions, or H+. Those little H+ ions are the master keys to all acidic properties. Conversely, when bases dissolve in water, they generate hydroxide ions, or OH-, which are the keys that unlock all of their basic behaviors. Which perfectly sets up Section 4, decoding the pH scale. Since we now know that H+ and OH- ions are the actual source of the power, we need a way to measure their exact concentration in any given solution, right? Enter the magic number 7. On the pH scale, which runs all the way from 0 up to 14, 7 is the ultimate, perfect neutral baseline. Pure water is a 7. And, fun fact, the P in pH actually stands for potens, which is German for power. So pH literally translates to the power of hydrogen. Think of the scale like a chemical slider. As you move to the left of 7, the concentration of those H+ ions increases dramatically, meaning the solution is getting increasingly acidic. Values right near 0 are insanely strong acids. Now, if you move to the right of 7, the H+ concentration drops, but the OH- concentration rises, meaning the solution becomes increasingly basic or alkaline. It's just a perfect way to visualize the balance of chemical power. Let's move into Section 5, pH in everyday life. This is where things get really fun, because we're taking everything we just learned in the lab and applying it directly to human biology and nature. And let's talk about your teeth for a second. Tooth enamel is made of calcium hydroxyapatite, which is literally the hardest substance in your entire body. It does not dissolve in water. But when you eat sugary foods, the bacteria in your mouth feast on those leftover sugars and they produce acid as a byproduct. If the pH in your mouth drops below 5.5, that quote-unquote indestructible enamel actually starts to corrode. And that is exactly what tooth decay is. So what's the fix? We brush our teeth with toothpaste, which is generally basic in nature. Think about it. Brushing your teeth isn't just about cleaning away food, it's a daily chemistry experiment. You are literally using a base to neutralize the acid and protect your enamel. Out in the wild, nature completely relies on this chemistry for warfare and survival. We eat a lot of naturally occurring acids, like citric acid in oranges or acetic acid in vinegar. But animals and plants actually weaponize them. If you've ever been stung by an ant or a honeybee, that intense burning pain happens because they literally just injected you with methanoic acid. And based on what we know now, how would you treat it? Yep, by rubbing a mild base, like baking soda, right on the sting to neutralize that acid. Even plants get in on the action. The stinging nettle plant injects methanoic acid if you brush past it. But fascinatingly, nature usually provides the cure right next door. The dog plant, which grows wild in the exact same areas, has a basic nature. Rubbing its leaves on the sting neutralizes the pain. It's incredible. Finally, let's wrap up with Section 6, the world of salts. We've talked so much about acids and bases fighting each other, but we really need to give some credit to these silent heroes created from all those neutralization reactions. Now, you'd probably think that all salts are perfectly neutral, sitting right in the middle at pH 7, kind of like the regular sodium chloride we sprinkle on our French fries. But actually, scratch that. It's more like a chemical tug of war. If a strong acid neutralizes a strong base, then yes, you get a perfectly neutral salt. But if a really strong acid overpowers a weak base, the resulting salt holds on to some of that acidic character, leaving it with a pH below 7. And vice versa. If a strong base overpowers a weak acid, you get a basic salt with a pH above 7. The final salt always reflects the exact balance of power between its two chemical parents. So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that acids, bases, and salts are not just abstract textbook concepts. They govern the delicate balance of our oceans, the soil our food grows in, the digestion in our stomachs, and the overall health of our bodies. Which leaves us with this final kind of mind-expanding thought from the source material. The atmosphere of the planet Venus is entirely wrapped in thick, yellowish clouds of highly concentrated sulfuric acid. Given everything we've just unpacked today about how delicate the pH balance of life on Earth truly is, do you think life as we know it could possibly find a way to exist there? It's a fascinating question that really pushes the boundaries of how we understand chemistry in the universe. Thanks so much for tuning into this explainer. And remember to keep questioning the world around you.